All right, welcome back to another video. So we're going to be looking over the NVIDIA encoder in depth versus the MainConcept encoder. If you didn't know, in DaVinci Resolve 21 for H.265 rendering, here we have different options now. We have NVIDIA for NVIDIA GPUs. You also have Apple, native, and MainConcept. So MainConcept is a new encoder, is a premium encoder that is being used, and it promises up to 30% better bitrate efficiency, and supposedly it's just a better encoder. So we're going to really test that today. The question is whether we should use NVIDIA or MainConcept. And if you just want to know the quick and fast guide before we get into the details, is for most YouTube and just regular routines that do not require heavy like grain and effects and things like that, just use the NVIDIA encoder. It's going to be faster, and the VMAF scores, which is what Netflix uses to determine whether the quality is the same as the reference, it stays pretty high. And if you have a super heavy affected timeline, like a lot of effects, grain, adjustment clips, things like that, things that are going to use your GPU while rendering, the MainConcept one will be faster because it's not competing with the GPU for rendering those effects. If you have fragile textures, use the MainConcept. And that's the quick guide, but let's go ahead and get into the details. Our goal is to measure before we choose the encoders. And at the end of the day, YouTube is going to go ahead and re-encode both. So we're going to, what was the method we did? I took the Team 2 Films DaVinci Resolve benchmark that Team 2 Films has created. You can download it. It's like a 6 GB file, and you render it with H.264 master to determine your specs of your computer. Basically, you run it twice and you see how long it takes to render. And that's how they get like a benchmark performance. Has lots of different effects. And I'll show you how it looks like here. Like has AI noise reduction, magic mask, temporal noise reduction, color grading, edit page composition. So lots of different effects. So I rendered this, and you can see I have a 27, 35, 26. Those are the main ones I rendered with the benchmark. And then I rendered two more clips at 45 megabits per second. So I rendered a ProRes 444XQ, which is an extremely high quality file, basically the reference quality. And then from this one, I rendered two more versions, one at 45 megabits MainConcept and 45 megabits NVIDIA. So that's basically the simple process we did. From the Resolve benchmark to ProRes, we rendered the full timeline twice at 45 megabits, and we re-encoded the same ProRes twice. So what is VMAF? It's a Netflix created assessment number, basically, to predict perceived video quality. So our ProRes 444XQ is our reference, and then we took the encoded frame at 45 megabits and compared it to the reference. And a close to 100 means it's most likely going to look the same perceptually. But we're going to look at some frame tests here soon. These are the settings for the export. It was both here are the same. 4K, 10-bit color, Rec 709, keyframes automatic, everything here is the same. The encoder behavior, for NVIDIA, we have more options, and for MainConcept, they give you less options to play with. The preset, we just used balance, and then for NVIDIA, we were able to do full 2-pass, so a full, not quarter, 32 frames of look ahead, a level 3 look ahead, adaptive iframe at cuts enabled, B-frame enabled, AQ strength 8, non-reference P-frame and weighted prediction, both disabled. All of these are disabled. The results, with the heavy effects, so not the original ProRes footage, the one that took 35 minutes and 27 minutes, the MainConcept encoder took 27.8 minutes, while the NVIDIA one took 35 minutes. And with both of these, we both had basically the same perceptual quality. You could see it was 98.56 average and 98.96 average using the VMAF score. And that the 5th percentile, which means 95% of all frames were greater than 92, for MainConcept, and 95% of all frames were greater than 90.83 VMAF. The speed is different. For the encoder only recode, it took longer to the MainConcept, and it was shorter with the NVIDIA one. But it was the opposite with the heavy workload. Why? Because this is the final ProRes master, so you see how it's very fast to play back. But when actually trying to render out these effects, these are all GPU driven effects. So these effects are using the GPU resources to create these effects, and then it's using the GPU again to encode those effects. So the GPU is working twice. So if you have a lot of effects, you might as well move some of your encoding power away from your GPU and put it on your CPU if you have a CPU able to do that. But if you have a simple video that's already like, there's no effects, it's just a regular video that you're re-encoding, then the NVIDIA encoder is definitely faster. So let's go ahead and do some frame checks. This is where we're gonna see the actual quality. And I have some samples here. Let's go ahead and view full sample. And I'm not gonna let you know what each sample is, so let me just load them all. So this is sample A, sample B, and sample C. Okay, so I see an obvious difference for myself between A and C. So let's go ahead and reveal the answers. B is the reference, C is MainConcept, and A is NVIDIA. And the reason this frame was chosen was because it had a VMAF score of 81. So you could see like, okay, this only like 20 points off, right? So how bad is it? Let's do a 4x zoom. This is where I noticed most of the differences. You see this guy's face here? This is the ProRes Master. So let's just say this is like the highest quality we can get. You could see like his haircut and his face shape. When we go back to NVIDIA, it's kind of mushed out. So like this is like the worst encoder is going to get. Another thing I noticed very clearly is the details in the trees, like the color, is a little mushy and lost. This is 4x zoom, by the way. And the grain pattern has been changed significantly, I would say, at 4x zoom. If we unzoom out, yeah, it's not something that like viewers are necessarily going to perceive, but if you're looking at the nitty gritty details, then yes, the MainConcept one, I'll say has a better details. And let's compare it with the MainConcept. So now we're gonna do MainConcept compared to ProRes. So ProRes, MainConcept, ProRes, MainConcept. What I noticed is the detail, even in the guy's face, stays the same between ProRes and MainConcept. MainConcept, ProRes, MainConcept, ProRes. The detail stays the same. Some of the color in the tree is lost. You see like those like little like specular highlights in the leaves. That's lost. The color is lost, but the detail remains. So if you really care about your grain and things like that, then make sure to use the MainConcept encoder. There's another frame here. Oh, well, I guess we know sample C is MainConcept, but let's switch. A, B, C. I don't see any differences here. Let's go to the next one. A, B, and C. I'm not seeing any differences scrolling between all these. No differences, honestly. Maybe a little bit here in the background. This is NVIDIA. Let's zoom in. I guess just how it does like the dithering and the gradients, but nothing in particular. This is a compositing frame. I don't think we're gonna really see much difference here either. Just a little difference, I guess, in the grain, really. Otherwise, it looks the same to me. Let's look at this one. There's only a slight difference I see here, and that's like in the mountains. So I'm gonna do a 4x zoom here in the mountains. We have this one. This one is definitely ProRes. It's very high quality. This is NVIDIA, and this is probably MainConcept. You could see like the grain changes. Let's go ahead and feed the answers. Yeah, this is ProRes, MainConcept, and NVIDIA. Interesting. So, yeah, this is a 93 score, VMAF, and this is 87. So all of the scores are very high. Like perceptually, you're not gonna see that much of a difference unless you're looking for the details. And if you really care about the very, very, very fine details, then yes, the MainConcept encoder is definitely better. Just the last measurement that we did here. So this is for the whole video. You could see that in the beginning, NVIDIA had a lower VMAF score. MainConcept did down a little bit. Basically, you can see from this histogram that the MainConcept encoder does better in most of the time, except in one time here that it did worse in terms of the score. NVIDIA dipped down a lot in some spots, but MainConcept holds it at the higher VMAF score, closer to the same reference level for longer. And you can see this is the cumulative distribution. So here this is every single frame plotted onto a strip. And you can see a lot of the scores are real bunched up at 99 here. A lot of them here as well, but they stop at 90. You don't have any frame that's less than 89. But on NVIDIA, you do have some frames less than 90. Let's go ahead and see. MainConcept only has 3 frames less than 90 and 44 frames for NVIDIA less than 90. So you will have some times, as you can see, where it dips down lower. So the MainConcept one does keep a higher score. That's for the workflow. For the encoder only, it's the same. It doesn't make that much difference, honestly, between those two. Next page. This is the heavy workflow. The heavy GPU workflow, it stays high the whole time. Compared to encoder only, it stayed low. Why? Because in this work, the GPU engine, which is the GPU encode, this green line, took up all the power. So the GPU core utilization was low because the GPU engine, the video encoding engine, was using all the power. Meanwhile, for MainConcept, there is no GPU engine, and the core utilization for the GPU stays the same because it's using the CPU actually on the MainConcept. And you could see that here, the power draw of the CPU went up for MainConcept. Meanwhile, it stays the same for the NVIDIA encoder. So if you're using the MainConcept encoder, you're definitely going to have the CPU doing the encoding for you, not your GPU. For the heavy workflow, the GPU cores are going to be busy actually making your image with the grain and the effects and this. So then you're giving it more work again to encode those frames. So you have to make the frames with the GPU and then encode them again. If you're doing a lot of heavy effects, push your encoder to use MainConcept or the CPU because your GPU is going to be handling all the effects anyway. And yeah, back to the creator guide. For most things, I would just say use NVIDIA if you care about the speed. But for heavy timelines, effects, and small like details, fragile textures, grains, use the MainConcept. Some of the limitations of this, we only did one run per configuration. The presets were not equal effort, meaning we don't know exactly. Like NVIDIA used a full 2-pass, 32 frames look ahead, and MainConcept used balance default. So I'm not entirely sure how much their preset does. They have their own algorithm. This clip is only 1020 frames, so it's not going to represent every single camera and motion pattern and grain and animation style. So you just got to test it yourself, most definitely. But definitely the MainConcept definitely holds more detail for sure. VMAF is not evidence for like, oh, this one's better or not. It does keep a higher score, so perceptually, yes, it should be closer. But as you saw from our frame check, our eyes definitely can tell the difference between, let's say, ProRes and NVIDIA. Like the grain detail is mushy, but perceptually, if you're just a viewer watching, this is only a single frame. This is not a playing video. If you were playing the video, I'm sure you probably wouldn't even notice these minute differences. So to conclude, the NVIDIA encoder and the MainConcept encoder are both very good. The NVIDIA one is faster, 100% on the GPU. It is a dedicated encoder. Now, is it going to be faster when you're also using the GPU to render out grain and noise reduction and AI optical flow? Probably not, because now you're doing 2 workloads on the same GPU. Meanwhile, the MainConcept one is a smarter algorithm. It does hold more detail in the grain and things like that, and it looks very good in the small details. Now, after you send this video back to YouTube to upload it for regular content creators or anyone who's uploading to social media, they're going to re-encode your video anyway. Are you really going to save those details? If you care 100% then about all those minor details, 4x zoom that we were zooming in on those frames, then yes, use the MainConcept encoder. All right, well, thank you for watching. If you learned something, please hit like and subscribe. And I think this will cover everything we need to cover for this type of technical detail for these encoders.